"Get off that fence, sir, or I'm calling the cops." Those words stung like a slap as I set foot in the earth that had belonged to my people since the 1880s. I'd scarcely opened the gate. The deed where my name Lucas Harper bulged in the pocket of my jeans, when this woman sporting a neon orange vest and thick sunglasses ran at me as if I were burgling her private fort. I stayed stuck keys, flailing, half laughing, thinking she'd gotten me confused with someone else. But no, this wasn't confusion. This was Diane, the president of the HOA. Totally convinced my ancestral farm was her community space, and I was a thief. 10 minutes later, I was telling two police officers why I stood in front of my own barn, while Diane, brandishing a clipboard, insisted I'd climb the gate to rob the place, scan the QR code on my ID. I said calmly. "It links to the county clerk." When the officer did, his expression hardened. He faced Diane with a look that could have shattered concrete and declared, "Ma'am, this man is the owner of the land. Let's discuss this deed you handed me." Diane's jaw dropped like a cartoon anvil, and she took a step back as if she'd just been caught forging a check in broad daylight 3 days prior. I'd been enjoying espresso at a Frankfurt train station, completing a 3-year stint in Europe, rebuilding post-farmland with my work completed. I was set to head back to Texas and the Harper family farm, a 150-acre inheritance. My great-grandfather cut out my parents were deceased, and although I'd rented portions to local farmers, the homestead barn and core acres belonged to me, supported by every legal paper, deeds, tax records, even a state preservation title for the barn's historical status driving up to the gate. I anticipated overgrown grass, perhaps a stray coyote, not HOA sign, zip tied to each post. The Harper Farm sign, hand-carved by my great-grandfather, was missing, replaced by a plastic plaque, Willow Creek HOA Community Garden members. Only, I sat in my truck, confused. Had my tenants gotten into some arrangement with the HOA? But the new padlock on the gate didn't belong to me. Solar lights lined the drive lawn gnomes peppered the barn's perimeter. Then I saw her, Diane, patrolling like a mall cop, clipboard, clutched as a badge of honor. She strode over voice-dripping condescension. "Can I help you, sir?" I kept it light. Said I was the owner, just checking in her face. Tightened. "This is private. HOA property. Trespassing is a crime, leave." Now I repeated that I own the farm. She laughed, a sharp mocking sound. "We've had con artists try this before, thinking they can claim open land." "Not today." She whipped out her phone, filming me as if I was going to run with the barn. "This is proof," she smirked, then dialed the police. I rested my arms against the fence, crossing them. Waiting, 2 officers showed up. Officer Carter, open-minded, and Officer Ruiz, who appeared to know Diane. She whispered to Ruiz, pointing at me like a criminal. Carter got my ID and title card. Diane pushed a fat folder into his hands. "Here's our HOA deed validating community ownership. He's trespassing and aggressive." I didn't flinch, simply nodded at the QR code. Carter scanned it, and in seconds his eyes widened. "Ma'am, the registry has missed her Harper as the owner in sole. Your deed doesn't match." Diane's face paled with color. "That's an error," she stuttered. "We annexed this property years ago." Carter returned her folder. "No, ma'am, it's your error. Cease tampering with private property." Ruiz took a step back, appearing uncomfortable. Diane attempted to protest, but Carter interrupted her after they parted. She stormed off, cursing about her lawyer. I walked the land. Dazed, raised garden beds sprouted where my family's wheat once grew. A gazebo stood in the center of the field. A chicken coop clucked behind the barn, which had a new lock. The porch was painted a garish teal. A hammock hung between my pecan trees. This wasn't a mix-up. This was a takeover. And Diane was the ringleader that evening. I studied my documents, deeds, titles, tax records, prepared to press charges if necessary. I called a property attorney friend, Greg, who was shocked. We were going to collect hard evidence of the HOA's behavior. This wasn't about offense or a fine. It was about legacy. And I'd be damned if some HOA tyrant rewrote my family's history. The following morning, I purchased trail cameras and placed them around the right trees behind poles, even in the weather vane of the barn. If Diane was having clandestine meetings or putting up additional signs, I'd catch her. I was finished playing nice. This was war. Not about grass, but about heritage. The following day, Ruers Not Mine woke me. Diane's community garden had a coop now. Squatting by my barn, a neighbor jogged by the fence like it was a public path. The audacity was maddening. I drove to the county recorder's office to see if there were any legal filings. The clerk scowled when I inquired about my parcel. There's an HOA community overlay claim filed 9 months prior. She informed me, but it's not filled out. No owner can sent your consent. She printed out the packet, and I almost laughed. Diane had made a claim stating the farm was abandoned with the HOA fixing it up. It did not have my signature on it and contained a neighborhood survey that resembled a potluck guest list. I scanned everything, wrote up a cease and desist with Greg, and insisted the HOA take down all buildings in 10 days. I laminated copies and went to the farm. Diane was halfway through tour giving tours of vegetable plots to a group of yoga moms and retirees, waving her arms like she'd plowed the land herself. I strolled through the gate, GoPro attached to my shirt, and handed her the notice. "This is a cease and desist. You have no claim here." She snatched it, crumpled it without reading, and turned to her group. "This man's not the owner. He's intimidating us." I pulled out a certified deed copy. "Crumple this too, but it won't change facts. Your garden's a liability," she snapped. "Well, see what our legal committee says," and stormed toward the barn, which had a new padlock. I didn't install. I began taking down her signs. HOA community zone, hurling them in my truck. I photographed each intrusion. Gazebo cut a yoga mat platform by the oak. Greg had cautioned me against taking them away. So I chronicled in detail that evening. Revenge struck 3 envelopes, filled my mailbox. Phony HOA charges $1,500 for disrupting business, $800 for property vandalism, and a threat of suit for community hazard. One contained a typo evaporative meaning, probably eviction, unless Diane intended to dissolve me. I laughed, but the joke didn't last long. Greg implored swift action before Diane ramped up the cameras, paid off 2 nights later at 9:30 p.m. My phone rang with video Diane and 2 HOA board members in my barn, flashlights shining, spreading diagrams on my father's workbench. A man with a man bun said, "We'll cut a ribbon here, get Channel 5 to report on it, go public quick, and his ownership won't count. Public opinion is what counts." Diane nodded. "Make it appear like it's always been ours. He's the trespasser." I froze, reliving it. This wasn't trespassing. It was a media manipulation ploy. If they wanted a public brawl, I'd provide them with one. I called an old college pal, Sarah, now an investigative journalist. I sent her the footage, and she was on the phone in minutes. Fraud. Fake deeds. A historic farm. This is a bombshell. I didn't want fame, just justice. But if Diane craved the limelight, I'd shine her light. Sarah returned the following morning with a news crew, walked them around the property. Illegitimate signs, illegal buildings. The barn gathering video recorded an interview beneath the century-old oak, the heart of the farm. The segment was on that evening, and the feedback was explosive. Emails poured in from neighbors. Tired Diane suburban dictator. Then the HOA exploded. Leaked board texts emerged. Diane lied concerning the farm being donated. "She's dragging us down." A silver truck came rolling down my driveway at noon. Outpaced Frank Larson, the neighborhood's first developer, sporting a worn 1970s zoning cap. He'd heard about it and brought the master zoning map. "This farm never was HOA land," he said, poking the paper. "I kept it distinct for its history." His maps and memos were gold. I scanned them for Greg, who added defamation and tried land seizure to our suit. Diane doubling down, taping flyers on mailboxes, accusing me of converting the farm into a strip mall with a replica blueprint of a gas station. Neighbors began to grow suspicious, some glaring. As they passed by, I responded with an open meet and greet, welcoming everyone for coffee. Sarah's team covered it. I showed deeds, maps, and barn footage in a continuous loop. The tone changed as neighbors saw the truth. One couple confessed to paying $700 to join the donated garden. A mother claimed Diane banned her son from the barn swing for unpaid harvest dues. Diane came flanked by 2 nervous board members and attempted to serve me a violation summons. I indicated the crowd the video and Frank drinking lemonade under the oak. "You're on my property, lying to everyone with a news crew in tow. Hand me that paper, and it's another harassment charge." She stiffened. Papers, shaking her escorts, fled the crowd, gazed speechless. She departed, defeated the story. Snowballed, a headline shouted, HOA! Attempt to steal historic farm fails spectacularly. Diane clammed up, then filed an emergency injunction alleging the farm was in limbo and ought to be public until ownership was established. Greg laughed at the haphazard filing, which referred to me as a transient of unknown history. The judge, unperturbed, ordered a hearing that day in court. Diane's lawyer waffled on community bonding and emotional damage. Greg reduced the deed maps footage and Frank's affidavit. The judge held quickly, injunction denied. Mr. Harper owns the place further. Meddling is harassment. Diane's attorney muzzled her protests. The HOA unraveled, 2 board members resigned, admitting they were deceived. Diane stormed at the community center, accusing betrayal neighbors. Sent me produce and apologies, one of which was offering to take down the gazebo. Diane's last prank was contracting 2 security guards and phony HOA polos to patrol my gate. I called the police, who came in minutes. Officer Carter from day 1 side, "This is criminal trespassing." Now Diane received a citation and arrest warning. She remained silent. Her guard sneaking away that night, the farm was still my gate locked, the porch light burning. The lawsuit brought Diane's forged documents were being investigated. Then came the kicker: she'd embezzled HOA funds for her legal fees. Porch furniture and landscaping her home was confiscated for restitution. A photo of her on the curb with belongings hit the papers, from HOA queen to outcast. I set it up for the barn. I converted to restoration. The farm wasn't simply my night, was a legacy. I hosted school field trips, initiated a legal community garden with a nonprofit, and converted the barn into a mini museum with old tools and family photos. A new sign creaked. Harper, family farm, restored private property. HOA fines, laughed at the community's fall market. Once Diane's domain, relocated to my land. Free and open, children ran past. Pumpkin Rose neighbors smiled. Diane experimented with a blog, My Truth, ranting against lawless owners. It failed after 3 entries battled her for our defamation suit. She settled damages, legal fees, and garden refunds, broke and disgraced. While I sat on the porch, mug in hand, the sun coloring the barn, gold laughter from the actual garden floated over. Diane didn't only lose, she made the farm stronger.